Smoke, the smell of burning rubber, and the sound of screeching tires are the ultimate driving thrill for some as cars tear around tight corners. This is the world of drifting. Welcome back to Get Around How, the channel that brings you all the latest, greatest stories about vehicles, dropping new content multiple times a week. So let's take a speedy turn and explore drifting. Most people in the Western world were first introduced to drifting with the 2006 film The Fast and Furious: Tokyo Drift. But this increasingly popular motorsport has been well known in Japan since the 1980s. Han Lu says in Tokyo Drift, "There's no wax on, wax off with drifting. You learn by doing it. The first drifters invented drifting out here in the mountains by feeling it." The cheesy dialogue is pretty accurate though. The art of drifting was perfected in the mountains of Japan. But Kunimitsu Takahashi, a former Japanese motorcycle racer, made it mainstream at the All Japan Touring Car Championship in the 1970s. Kunimitsu was particularly good at nailing the perfect angle on corners. He could drift through the entire bend without losing speed. This bold and impressive move won him many fans who couldn't get enough of the tire-smoking spectacle, including Kiichi Tsuchiya, a driver who eventually became known as Japan's Drift King. Tsuchiya became internationally famous when videos of him drifting through city streets in a Toyota Corolla began circulating in 1987. Soon, amateur drifting events were popping up everywhere, including the US's West Coast. By the 2000s, drifting was firmly cemented as a recognizable sport, with a world championship and its own Fast and Furious film. So what exactly is drifting? Drifting works by simply intentionally putting a car in an oversteer state, where it overcomes the natural traction between the wheels and the road. The driver controls this state, forcing the vehicle to continue drifting until the turn is complete. While drifting began as an under-the-radar street technique, it's become a massively popular worldwide motorsport. Drifting competitions are like a car dance-off where judges rate the driver's performance. The judges consider four things: the driver's path, called the line, how sharp the car is turned, the angle, how fast the car goes, speed, and how exciting the performance is, show factor. Judges often tell drivers which path to take, and the oomph factor includes how much smoke the car makes, how close the car is to the wall, and how the crowd reacts. Drivers want to go as fast as possible during the whole dance routine. Drifting is a highly technical skill that takes a lot of practice to master. Each drifter has their own preferred techniques and style, but here are a few favorites. A braking drift. This is when the driver brakes while turning a corner, making the car's front heavier. The gas pedal is then pressed, which makes the back wheels lose grip and start sliding. If the vehicle is rear-wheel drive, this works really well, but it could also work for front-wheel drive cars. It is a versatile technique because it doesn't depend on which wheels are pushing. Power oversteer is a classic drifting technique. To make this move, the driver speeds into a turn with the gas pedal floored, making the car's rear end slide outwards. This happens because there's so much power going to the wheels that they lose traction. Power oversteer is great for all-wheel drive cars. Heel-toe shifting is when the driver presses the clutch pedal with their left foot, and then uses their right foot to press the brake pedal with their toes. At the same time, they slide their heel over to the accelerator pedal to rev up the engine before downshifting the car. This smooths the downshifting, so it doesn't jerk the car around. When drifting, it's important to maintain a steady speed and angle, and the heel-toe technique helps make that happen. The inertia feint drift, or Scandinavian flick, is a technique where the driver starts by turning the car away from the direction they want to go. Then, they quickly turn the car back in their desired direction, using its momentum to swing into a drift. To help the car swing outwards, the driver might pull the handbrake while shifting the car's weight to the outside. When done right, feint drifting can actually make the car go faster. That's because the momentum from the drift helps propel the vehicle forward once the driver straightens out. Professional drifting exists as there are plenty of competitors for drivers to put their skills to the test. The Drift Masters European Championship is Europe's definitive professional drifting event, and it's held in different venues ranging from F1 circuits to football stadiums across Europe. While the championship started with 3 rounds in 2014, it's grown to 6 as fans and drivers crave the thrills. The Formula Drift Championship, or Formula D, is the premier drifting championship series in the United States. The event sprawls over 8 racing tracks and 60 drivers. Drifting has become popular in more remote parts of the world too. The Isle of Man is home to the Manx Drifting event, organized by different sponsors annually. The small British island offers the unique opportunity for drifters to compete on closed country roads at speeds up to 62 miles per hour, or 100 kilometers per hour. What about NASCAR? Drifting is technically allowed in NASCAR racing, but it's seen rarely. NASCAR drivers aim to get the fastest lap times to win races, but they avoid drifting because it slows their cars and wears out their tires too quickly. The track's banking allows drivers to turn at high speeds, and the strong tire grip makes drifting unnecessary. Preventing worn-out tires is important because degraded tires can cause slower speeds and more pit stops. F1 drivers also avoid drifting for similar reasons. If you want to try drifting out for yourself, there are a few things you need to know. First, you'll need a car with rear-wheel drive. It's best if the car has a limited slip or welded differential. A manual gearbox and a strong clutch are also important, as are a good handbrake and coilover suspension. If you have a supportive bucket seat, tackling those turns confidently will be even easier. While any rear-wheel drive car will do, BMW 3 Series, Toyota Supras, and Ford Sierras are popular among beginners. You can also expect to go through a lot of tires. Drifting demands a lot of rubber, and rear tires are incredibly strained when drifting. Cheap tires are fine, but professionals usually use tires with more grip and traction in the front to maintain control. As for practice, you can find specific days dedicated to introducing new drivers to the sport at racetracks around the world. There are also drifting schools, like Drift Academy, which guides newbies through a series of classroom learning and hands-on practice sessions. Learning to drift on public roads is not advised, no matter how cool Fast and Furious made it look. It's hard to perfect your drifting skills from a jail cell or without a license. Drifting isn't a cheap hobby, but it's certainly more affordable than many other kinds of racing. 240 Drift estimates that your first year of drifting will cost you about $6,000. This included the price of a used drift car, some repairs and modifications, and other expenses. An average year for an amateur drifter comes in closer to $3,500, including insurance, tires, repairs, track fees, and gas. Of course, modifications and enhancements to your drift vehicle could change that number significantly. If you'd rather try drifting with a low-cost investment, look to a simulation game like Drift 21, Asset Corsa, or Car X Drift Racing Online. You won't get the smell of burning rubber, but you'll keep a few $1,000s in your pocket. Would you try your hand at drifting?